Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Tom from Ludicrous Feed. Thank you so much for joining us today on Ludicrous Feed Live. It's Saturday morning in Sydney, 29th of July, 2023, about 8:02 a.m., 8:03 a.m. right now. And let's welcome our regular guest, of course, Riz Akhtar from Carloop and The Driven. Hello, Riz. How are we this morning?
Yeah, going well, Tom. It is a bit chilly here in Melbourne, but I think the sun may come out. We'll find out. But yeah, good to be here.
Yes, you never know with Melbourne, do you? Four seasons, right? They say.
And no
Anything can
EV subsidies either. So
Yeah, you don't want me to know for that. Hopefully it comes back soon. Riz, we've got a big show as always. Plenty to talk about as always in the EV world. What do you want to talk about first?
yeah, we'll sort of get started with something that surprised me when I came across it. There's a Tesla Model 3 that is possibly the most expensive Tesla Model 3 I've ever seen come up for sale. Um, It's a used 2022 car with around 6,000 kilometers, but with an asking price of $150,000.
Wow.
So,
Holy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's that's quite expensive, as you've written there in your article. Wild price tag. I mean, what possesses someone to list their car for that much? I mean, run us through this, Riz.
well, they reckon it's a one-off type of an example. If you remember the car space, there used to be auto salon, and people used to do up like modified cars in such an extreme way. Where this is not as extreme, it's fairly stock on the inside, but then it has a lot of carbon fiber, upgraded wheels, front lip. I think something to do with the rear spoiler, a whole lot of internal stuff, including additional screens. So all of that without really doing too much to the performance side of things. Um, so yeah, if you were to purchase one of these, like this example's in Victoria, you will end up paying around $6,300 in stamp duty, um, and sort of registration costs. So you're paying close to 100 or over $155,000 for a basically a blue Model 3 with white seats. So
Yeah, I mean, look, I must say it's a very nice looking car, obviously. Especially the top one here. It's all, well, let's say it's souped up. Nice body kit there. But look, we've been friends long enough, Riz. We've discussed all this stuff, and we know that the souped up cars or modified cars don't really attract a higher asking price in the used car market, right?
Hmm. And that's what it is as well. Like even with the auto salon days, you used to get this Mitsubishi Lancer that was so done up with this special one-off leather seats and all the rest of it, and then you see them on the market for like 5 grand. I mean, the seats alone were worth more than that. So yeah, this is same in the EV space, but I guess this could be the start of a Tesla Model 3 modification scene.
Look, I think if you can flip cars like this, like you can with homes, do them up and sell them for a profit, then hey, great, I'll be doing it too. But I don't know. The skeptic in me says it's probably not something you should be aspiring to soup up a car to sell for a profit. Just do it for your own love, right? Just do it because you love doing up cars. But I don't know. I don't think you should expect too much more than what you paid if you
But
want to sell it for used.
well, exactly, and particularly in the used market now, where I think the Model 3 Performance starts at 83,000 plus on roads, so it's the
Mm.
cheapest it's ever been. Um, and we've got solid sort of fairly consistent inventory as well of used vehicles being listed online. Um, so I think all of those things, it just means that prices should be coming down, and examples like these should be very rare.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on those to high prices and see whether they lower their prices a bit in coming weeks as reality kicks in. Oh, we haven't looked at your graphs in a while, Riz, with used car or used Model 3 listings. We sort of looked at that during the midst of the pandemic, with with scarce new inventory coming in. But as we see more new stock coming in, we can see that trend sort of hitting down for used cars.
Yeah, and it's also a fairly healthy thing. It means that the opportunistic sellers are no longer selling, as you saw sort of the spike in the beginning or late last year and early this year. And since
Mm,
then, Tesla's lowered their prices, I think three times now, which means that people will think twice about trying to make a profit off it because you can't. Like people buy a new car instead as the supply's
mm.
improved.
Yeah, I think that was part of the article from the ABC that they featured my photo in
Mhm.
this week. You know, they were saying that yes, prices are coming down because new car sales or new car prices are coming down as well for EV. So naturally, they should also come down. And you would think as fleets turn over their cars and people start selling their 3 to 5 year old vehicles, then the used market should go up as well. So interesting times.
Mm.
All right, well, let's say hello to some of our viewers who've joined us early Saturday morning. We've got Gaffer, as always. Gaffer is one of our loyal viewers and listeners. Hello, Gaffer. Nice to see you, as always. And Jeremy's joined us, and his comment is Thrifty Melbourne downtown is offering a Polestar 2 for hire, but without aircon. So no good for my trip in late November. Had to hire a RAV4 hybrid. That's unusual. I would have thought air conditioning is fairly standard these days, Riz.
Yeah, I would have thought so as well, unless they're detuning the cars. And no, yeah, it's surprising as to why they would be doing that when they want to offer the best possible experience, right? And interesting, they're thrifty because we haven't heard them sort of be in the electric
Hmm.
vehicle higher space.
Hmm. I actually thought Thrifty was now sixth, but I could be wrong. Again,
Yeah.
thinking of budget, I get them confused. Anyway, weird. Yeah, I probably wouldn't hire a car with an aircon either, Jeremy, so I don't blame you. Jerry Can says, morning, everyone. Hello. And yeah, Gaffer, again, the comment they planted it in gold, I think. Yeah, I mean, you have to be 24 karat gold, right, to sell a car that much. Um, and Jim Donaldson says, hello, morning, boys. Hi, Jim. Nice to see you as well. All right, cool. All right, let's move on, Riz. What else have you got for us?
So the next sort of story that caught my eye, and I touched on it on the Thursday stream, is this Tesla Cybertruck wrapped in Ford F-150. Well, basically wrap, but it's pretty well done. And it's been spotted a couple of times in California, and I thought that looks pretty realistic to most people. If they were looking from far enough, they wouldn't be able to tell. Like, look at that.
That's pretty funny, actually. I mean, this is a joke from Tesla, obviously, right? Why would they do this? Just for fun?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't think they need any more publicity on the back of that. But um, they were on the back of some of the Twitter posts. People were saying, well, maybe the real joke is that Tesla will produce more than the F-150 in their first year. Um, so we'll find out as they scale. But yeah, pretty cool to sort of. I mean, that looks legit.
Oh, totally. That's hilarious. I mean, if you just sort of squint or just passing glance, you would think that's an F-150, 100%. And you're right. I think I read that too. Is people will say that Tesla produced more F-150s than than Ford. So
Yeah.
that's pretty good. Even down to the door handles too. That's quite funny. Very good detail. And you've got one on order now too, Riz. You were saying on Thursday.
Well, it's a bit of a gamble. I don't think I'll get it before 2029, but we'll find out if they ever do make a right-hand drive version of it. But yeah, I guess I wouldn't recommend that way of ordering one now until they officially open their orders in Australia.
Yeah, maybe by 2029, Victoria will have the subsidies back for EVs. At least that's something.
Well, you never
Never know.
know. It's funny. I've been driving around Melbourne in an EV recently, and it was really interesting to see the amount of infrastructure and these huge cranes and all of these big road and tunneling projects going on. Um, So you can really tell they're spending like tens of billions of dollars on this stuff, but we haven't got money for, subsidies, which 20,000 of them at $3,000, is that 6 million maybe? Or 60
Yeah,
million, whatever it is. Yeah.
six, something like that. Yep, yep. Certainly
Um,
doesn't compare. Mm,
not to the bill tens of billions. So, and then
mm.
surprisingly, I know it's a little bit off topic, but no more gas for new builds from next year.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, well, that's kind of on topic. It's still renewables, so that's good. Yeah, we changed from a gas stove to induction electric like 12 months ago. That's been great.
Yeah.
So it's a bit, it's obviously an expense to convert, but I think it's been great for the family. Cooks a lot better, in my opinion. You can still fry with a wok if you've got the right crockery.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
right.
I recommend people look into that for sure. All right, let's take some more comments from the crew. Here we go. We've got Jeremy saying Thrifty is part of Hertz. My apologies to Thrifty. Thank you. ASF. Hey guys, when do you reckon the Highland will be here? Let's speculate, Riz. 2 weeks, like short 2 weeks or long 2 weeks? What are we talking?
I think long 2 weeks, because we still haven't really heard too much more on an official um, sort of reveal as such. When and if that happens, maybe it happens at the Cybertruck delivery event, whenever that is. But I guess Tesla's keeping their lips sealed for the time being.
Yeah, yeah. Haven't seen anything too. We sort of talked about it on Thursday a little bit, but yeah, just nothing more than the covers that we've seen so far driving around Californian streets. Rob says, "Good morning, everyone." Hello, Rob. Good morning. And same with Paul, says good morning as well. And Gaffer asks the question, do you think some could use the Riz method, that is buying a Cybertruck from the US, ordering a Cybertruck from the US, expecting delivery in 2029, to early order a Tesla Semi? No issues with left-hand drive versus right-hand drive. That's a great point, actually, because you do sit in the center of the cabin. So, yeah, interesting.
I think the only thing with the Semi would be, the Australian design rules are always a bit interesting. They always find a way. I mean, we saw the debacle with, that was partially ANCAP, but I think ADR had a role to play with Addo 3 last year. Anything new, they just don't know. If it doesn't blow smoke up there, they've got no idea how to treat it. So it'd be interesting. I think I'm actually not sure whether the Semi orders are opened as such or reservations are. But because that's sort of been a bit of a piloted program, where they're still waiting to sort of see how things are going with Pepsi, but they're supposed to be increasing or ramping it up since their official delivery event in December last year. So either way, I think it is a possibility, but I haven't tried it yet, Gaffer.
Well, not too late, Riz. We'll talk about it next week when you do.
Yeah. It's probably a bit more than $100 deposit or reservation. It's probably more like 10,000 or $100,000, which I don't have at the moment.
No, not yet. We'll work on that. Yeah, that's right. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And Glenn Stimson says, in reference to no more gas in new builds from Victoria is a great initiative and should be done nationally. Natural gas can never reach net zero. Very true. Whereas electrification can. Great point. Just on that, I might just quickly touch on this article that a viewer of ours found this week for us. So this is based on a new build in Sydney Southwest, which is a growing area in Sydney. I'll just put it up here, sorry, before I chat about it. There we go. So, yeah, so we've got Victory Hill, which is in Sydney Southwest, new housing development or new housing estate. 450 lots sell out in Southwest Sydney's all electric community. So there's not too many details in this article about the what is exactly all electric. But apart from the fact that where is it? It says that it's pretty much running on 100% renewable power. So this is the first all electric community in New South Wales, which is pretty cool. So I mean, you'd expect things like solar panels, as shown in the picture here. Charging points for new homes, maybe community charging as well. What else? Rainwater tanks, all those kind of things. So, yeah, I mean, when that starts to build, and I'd love to go take a look. Riz, I think this is the future, right? New builds, new housing developments like this need to have this on board.
Yeah, that, and I mean, they could definitely take it one step further with any renovations or retrofitting, particularly for commercial buildings. So if Woolworths is doing an upgrade, then they should be looking at installing chargers and solar and the rest. But this is a great initiative. Particularly, we need that in new builds, and it sort of sets a bit of a benchmark for a lot of the other estate builders to be doing something similar. Um, in that first artist's impression at the top of the article, what car is that?
Wow, it doesn't look very electric to me. Could be a Mazda
That's what I
CX-5 or
thought.
something. Yeah, yeah. Maybe by 2029, Riz, when your Cybertruck comes, they'll be electric.
That's what we need.
That's
No, I
the
think I
dream.
think it's a good initiative for them to at least be thinking that way. Does it the piece say who the developer is?
Um, let's see. Let's see. Lend-Lease.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so they're large enough, and hopefully they can use this as a way to in their future estate builds as well. So that's really good news.
Yeah, I agree. Um, well, Riz, better than CX-5, should we maybe have a Volkswagen ID3? Would that be more pleasing
Well,
for you?
ID3, ID4, anything works. We still don't know when they're coming, so
Yeah, yeah, but they seem to feature quite prominently in pictures, stock footage, right, or stock pictures.
well, funnily enough, they were
Uh,
in front of the Parliament House a couple of months ago when Origin announced some deal and Chris Bowen was there. And I'm thinking, you can't buy these. You can't buy the ID Buzz. You can't buy it. So
no,
anyway, it's
yeah,
hopefully Volkswagen will bring them in the next 12 months.
yeah, they just like the limelight, unfortunately. Yeah, if you're watching this Volkswagen, bring them in so we can test them for you. Tony says, thank you, Tom and Riz, for all your helpful information and videos. You've helped to convince me about EVs. I've had my Model 3 rear-wheel drive for a year now and loved every moment of it. Fantastic. That's great, Tony. I'm glad Riz and I and Rahul have been able to help you with that. So congratulations. Well done. Paul says, you may have covered this previously, but would be interested in your preliminary thoughts on the Volvo EX30. Yeah, I would be very interested in this coming to Australia, Paul. So Riz, have you read much about the Volvo EX30?
Yeah, so that's supposed to be the smaller electric SUV from Volvo. I think the starting price is maybe 59,990 plus on-roads in Australia. So it's sort of been announced, but no further details on it just yet. It's going to be interesting to see what specs they do bring in as their first lot, and whether it does sort of arrive before the end of this year or early next year. But I think the word is it's more of a next year type of car. It's small enough where it could feel like a hatchback, but it is a small SUV. Very minimalistic design on the inside, and it seems to be, very Volvo design outside as well. Safety, I guess, is pretty well Volvo's known for, and you can see in that interior shot.
You're right.
One
Very
screen.
minimalistic. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. We talked about this on Thursday too. Like the Mini now has not got a screen behind the steering wheel, and now Volvo is doing it too. So yeah, interesting times, right? Tesla was kind of mocked a little bit for not having that, and now they're all copying Tesla. So yeah.
So this is I guess Volvo Cars is owned by Geely Holdings, who also own Polestar, Lotus, and a couple of other brands, including Zeekr, which is one of their newer brands. Zeekr's gone to Europe already, and Zeekr actually has an equivalent of the Volvo EX30 you can buy in Europe pretty soon. I think it's called the Zeekr X, and that's basically the same car, but obviously rebranded as Zeekr. So yeah, I guess for those looking at early impressions, even though we don't have a lot on the EX30, if YouTube Zeekr X, there is quite a few videos on that, even from Europe, where they've sort of done an unveiling of that car.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I quite like the look at this Volvo EX30. I didn't think it was that much smaller than the XC40. Looking at that, so
Mm,
it's only like 2 centimeters shorter than the XC40. So we say small SUV, but the
yes.
XC40 is reasonably big already. Really.
Yeah, especially for like, a lot of families and inner city travel and stuff. I think it's the
Hmm.
right sort of size. Maybe we're too used to the big large SUVs that we see on our roads like the Klubers of the world.
Yeah. Yeah, look, Sydney and Melbourne are certainly getting denser, so I think this kind of thing would be good. I like the pricing 59,990 before on roads. That's okay. It's like Model 3 territory, which is good. I like the fact that now we're getting things like single motor, rear wheel drive, or yeah, single motor, short range and then long range, and
Mm.
then like this dual motor. I think the Kia EV9 I checked out last night also is going to be offered in those three variants too. I think from early reports, rear wheel drive long range, and then all wheel drive. So I think this is where we're heading. I wouldn't mind a rear wheel drive long range. I don't need the all wheel drive as such in Sydney.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think Tesla used to offer that rear wheel drive longer range, but not anymore, which is a shame. Let's see what else we can talk about. So 69 kilowatt hour battery pack, 480 kilometers. That's plenty on WLTP. Charging 150. So yeah, it's perfect. It's kind of in the sweet spot there for the EVs of today. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing this on our roads.
It'd be interesting to see. I think it's a dedicated EV platform this time round,
Oh, good, good.
compared to the XC40, which is, well, sorry, C40, XC40, and Polestar, which is based on that XC40 platform.
Yes.
So that would be a good change. I mean, we know Polestar and Volvo can make really, really good electric cars, even if they're using the ICE platform. Obviously, that impacts efficiency. So
Mm,
hopefully, in the future vehicles, including the Polestar 3 and the Volvo EX90,
mm.
um, it's a dedicated EV platform, so that should improve efficiency as well.
Yeah, yeah. Wireless Apple CarPlay. You don't see many of those currently in electric cars. So good to see. All right, so let's take some more comments from the crew. We've got the wannabe geek. Hi there, guys. Live in a small coastal town in Queensland. There is only one DC charger in the region, and it has been out of action for months. I made complaints to council and ChargeFox, no fix yet. So yeah, hopefully, Rob, if you're watching this, or someone from ChargeFox, help wannabe geek out, please. Maybe email ChargeFox directly, or they probably have, but keep trying. I think Rob does read all those tweets and emails and things. So yeah, keep fighting the good fight. Snows says, morning, not sure if you've covered this. I didn't know if you need to call support or send email for charging when off-grid setting with a power wall. I would have thought it was on by default. Right, so this
Mm.
is interesting. Snows, I presume you've got single phase. If you've got single phases, should work quite nicely. With three phases, a little bit different because you can't actually charge without the inverter running off the grid because it's not a true three-phase battery Powerwall. So just clarify that with your installer. There's Snows with the Powerwall too. And Paul Lepardi says, good morning. Hi, Paul. Paul's one of our long-term followers and listeners. Nice to see you there. Thanks for joining us. Oh, nice to see so many viewers on Riz at 8:26 a.m. on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's no, it's good. Bit of a breakfast EV news type of stream we have going on. But yeah, it's really good to see, and keep the questions coming in because
Mhm.
that really helps them understand what's sort of on your mind, and we can talk through it, and hopefully there is stuff we can share, and same with the audience as well. Everybody's here to help, so yeah, keep them coming
Yeah.
in.
No, I agree, Riz. It's good. Yeah, keep your comments because we love this stuff. We get asked by industry all the time, what are the trends? What are people worried about? And this is what we feed back. Our viewers talk about this, talk about that. So it's really, really quite critical to improving EVs infrastructure and renewables in Australia. So yeah, love it. Riz, let's move on. What shall we talk about next?
BYD obviously have done fairly well since their launch or first deliveries around 12 months ago now. Now it's sort of there's a new model that's surfaced, which they will call the BYD Seal U. Um, it's called well, it's a different name. Like most things, they have a different local name in the Chinese market versus what they call these internationally. And this is what sort of has emerged, that it is possibly heading to international markets. We don't have any confirmation about Australia, but I guess we'll find out. So this is a larger SUV compared to the Atto 3. It's 330 millimeters longer. So it's a lot longer, or the difference is a lot greater than the EX30 versus the XC40. It's more of a Model Y sort of I wouldn't call it a competitor, but comparable to a Model Y in terms of its size and space. It has a larger internal screen, so I think the Atto 3 come with 12.3-inch screens, and this is a 15.6-inch center display. For comparison, it'd be, I guess, somewhat similar to the Model 3 screens at the moment.
Okay.
And it seems to be fairly premium built. There is no word on arrival into Australia, but I did find a review from a gentleman who's based in Ireland, and he went to China to test drive that, and he reckons it'll be heading to the Irish car market by early next year.
Yeah, I like it, Riz. It's yeah. I mean, is this kind of the same size as was it the Tang?
I think it might be just a little bit smaller than the Tang, so it would fit between the Atto 3 and the Tang. But yeah, full electric. They battery sizes, I think, are also larger compared to the Atto 3. And yeah, 71 kilowatt hours, which is larger than the 60s, the max I think you can get on the Atto 3.
Yep.
And
Yeah, right.
they're offering various ranges for that as well.
No, I like it. It's kind of in that sweet spot. Some find the Atto 3 a bit too small for a family vehicle, but yeah, this is good. This is kind of that CX5 size, maybe a bit bigger even. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, and
71 kilowatt hour. Yep.
From some angles, it looks a little bit like the Porsche Macan. So particularly from this angle, looking at it from the rear, it's and from the front, obviously, it has the very BYD Seal type of a look.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, no, so I mean, 400 kilometers is good. That's the kind of range you want for an EV these days. It's funny how the CLTC, the Chinese standard, is so much higher than the WLTP. Maybe they're more efficient in China. I don't know.
Yeah.
But look at this, 152 kilowatt and 163 kilowatts, so a bit more than the Atto 3. And obviously a larger vehicle. I like the interior too, probably less out there than the Atto 3. Not too many purple hues, not too sinewy. No, the guitar strings, that's disappointing for me. That's for me, trademark. Yeah, no, I think it'll be good. Do we need another SUV this big in Australia? Well, I mean, Australia seems to have a love affair with SUVs, so meet the market, I suppose.
And do we, I guess, have a larger SUV than the Atto 3 based on a ground-up electric platform? Actually, this one I'm not too sure. It might be a plug-in hybrid with an electric. So I'm not sure what that Song Plus model comes out as in the Chinese market, because this is obviously the Champion Edition, full electric, because BYD is known for having plug-in hybrids and electric models as well. They haven't done that with the Atto 3 or the Dolphin, but there is other cars which they have in both plug-in hybrids and pure electric options.
Yes, and the rear does not have a Build Your Dreams badging, which is possibly a positive for some. Yeah, moving on from the Seal, actually, all on the same note, question from Jerry Can. Any news on when the Seal launch will happen? I thought it was August, which is like 2 days away. BYD New Zealand allows you to interest on their website. Have you heard anything, Riz, about the Seal launch?
No, nothing yet. I think we'll probably, things can move pretty quickly next couple of weeks, possibly. But I guess something's got to change if they expect to land cars here before the end of this year, which is what has been sort of been spoken about. I mean, that's what they're talking about in New Zealand anyway. And I think I've sort of seen a couple of interviews with Luke Todd here and there where he has mentioned that they are expecting for the Seal to sort of be here by the end of the year. So hopefully soon, Jerry can. We'll find out.
Yeah, and I'm more interested to see where the launch will be. We saw the Gold Coast launch for the Dolphin. Maybe Taronga Zoo for the Seal. We'll see. Closer for me anyway, Taronga Zoo. Yeah, we'll certainly keep you guys informed, Jerry can, on the stream. Don't worry about that. Paul says, I had my car in at Beard ACT for modern replacement and got a Model 3 as a loaner. It is great convenience to have personal profiles. I agree. I set the loaner to drive the same way as my own car. That's the brilliant thing, Riz, isn't it? We chatted about this a few times. Tesla having profiles you can move across from vehicle to vehicle. It just makes the experience so much better.
Yeah, and that's what they've tried to streamline, and you can see, like, if you think about what's involved to make that happen, where any car knows, any Tesla knows your profile, so obviously it's pulling it from somewhere online, where most other cars you don't even have any features. They have driver profiles. Some of them you step out, turn the car off, come back in, and it forgets which profile you have got. So Tesla can do that across multiple vehicles, and most other manufacturers can't even get it on one car that you own, right?
Yeah. There was the option for the Volvo XC40 when I hired it from EV. It probably didn't work as well. Didn't quite get it working, but I mean the option was there. So the owner tried to help me out with that. Hopefully that improves. I think BMW does it too. I think they've got a profile as well. Any news on Baron asks, any news on the rollout of 117 NRMA chargers? I'm a little bit disappointed with NRMA at the moment, I must say. It's just they've been very quiet recently. They promised an app, but I've not seen anything to start with. An app for charging their chargers, like for fee. It's still free, which we of course talked about on Thursday. And now they're promising all these chargers. Riz, have we heard anything from them recently?
No, not on the. Well, there was a podcast, I think, on the Driven a couple of months ago where there was some chat with the NRMA people about when are they bringing this pricing model in and what it could look like. They said it's coming. Well, that's what they've been saying for a long
So it's
time.
Christmas, yes.
So I haven't heard too much more. And on this particular 117 charges, they've been very quiet. And I guess the other disappointing part about that is we haven't had an update from the federal government on anything. So we haven't heard on what is. So they announced the national EV strategy, then they announced this charger rollout in partnership with NRMA, and then since then it's been crickets. So we sort of need a bit of an update as to what's going on, because people are buying thousands of EVs every month now. And if the charging infrastructure doesn't keep up, which it was already falling behind, then come holiday season, it will be scuffles at chargers, and particularly at free chargers, which we shouldn't have. And we discussed this on Thursday as well.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be interesting. Every holiday season, there just seems to be more and more EV, and that ratio to EV to charging plugs is just getting wider and wider. I know more is getting installed, but still, we definitely need more and more. So NRMA, please come speak to us. Come on the stream. Come chat to us. We'll be very interested to hear what your thoughts are. Gaffer asks, the FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt seems to be coming in waves. Have you guys noticed the amount of noise coming from the car carrier fire in Europe? I did read about that. Ferry with 3,000 vehicles, 25 which were EVs. And the first thing they do is blame EVs. Yeah, of course. It makes good news, right? Blaming EVs for fires. Our good friend Emma from EV FireSafe, does a lot of work on LinkedIn to dispel these myths. EVs are generally much safer. They rarely catch fire compared to combustion engine vehicles. So, but hey, watching an EV, it's easy and quick to blame, right? And fun too.
It is actually a very interesting thing, and how quickly. I mean, I even came across a video in my YouTube feed, and it said something like 2 EV fires in 2 years on these vehicle transport ships. And I'm thinking there is, it's media and it's people just really trying their hardest to dispel, all this whatever's happening with the CV movement. And I think that's unfair. And as you said, Tom, people like Emma have done a lot to hopefully help move that conversation. But media is what gets them the most clicks.
Yep. Greg's updating us. 500 EVs apparently. It's the latest update. Okay, maybe there's more to the story. Well, Greg also says he saw the new Hyundai Kona. No PHEV or EV yet, but looks a bit fancy. Yes, I'll put this up on the screen here. It does look fancy, actually. Let me just show you guys. So there it is there, looking quite schmick with the front light there. I love it. I love it. Front charging port. Interesting. Yeah, the Kona's kind of been the quiet achiever, hasn't it, Riz, over the last few years? In the shadows of the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 and the Kia EV6 as well. So, yeah, I think it's still doing good work in the background there.
They sold quite a few, and then they stopped taking orders on the existing one because of this new model that was coming in. And as Greg said, it's probably looking like closer to the end of the year when we are going to get one. This was sort of the first car, and Hyundai made a big deal out of saying that they really took the design inspiration for the plug-in hybrid, ICE, and EV from a EV design first, whatever that means. But it does look fairly streamlined. I guess it looks less boxy than that Hyundai Santa Fe we looked at the other week.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, look, the more EV choice, the better, particularly at this more affordable range too. It's just, basic, it does the job. And it'll probably sell well as it always has. So yeah, looking forward to testing it. Question from Roger Fong. Morning, guys. Planning to get into my first EV? Yeah, do it. Go for a test drive. What's your thoughts on the road user charge for Victorian registered zero and low emission ZL EVs? Do other states have this? Riz, take it away.
I guess living in Victoria, you have to cough up. In other states, there is I think a bit of a time lag. Like I think New South Wales said 2027, Tom, or
That's correct.
26. Yeah.
27.
So we'll have to find out what sort of other states will adopt or not. SA, they had something in place and then they cancelled it. And others haven't really said too much more since. It's still in front of the courts. There is a court case going on in trying to figure out whether that's even legal. But I guess we haven't seen an outcome of that, because whatever the outcome of that case is will depend, well, it will influence how quickly the other states move on to it or not. Maybe not New South Wales, but others will, who haven't said anything so far. So I guess as we do move away, from ICE vehicles, we need a way to fund. I'm not saying that road user charge or fuel subsidy, fuel, is it?
Excise.
Surcharge, excise. That funds the roads, but they need to find a way of doing it. But at the moment, states like Victoria are looking at it as a cash grab, and it's the way it is. It may hinder some people, but most people are just, I guess, happy to pay whatever they ask.
Yeah, I mean, for me as an outsider looking in, it's amusing because it's the way you collect that is quite comical. It's literally a photo of your odometer or whatever it is. That's all it is. It's not very smart, And also, if you're driving on your own property, if you've got a large rural property, then you've got to pay for that as well. If you drive into New South Wales, South Australia, you still got to pay, even though you're not in Victoria. It just feels to me hasn't been thought out very, very well. And as you said, Riz, we still need to pay for the road somehow, but I think it needs to come from a federal level so that everyone feels equally, charged rather than Victoria getting targeted. So yeah, I'm curious to see where this court case goes with Chris Vanderstock, one of our fellow friends in the EV space. So yeah, we shall see what happens.
I think it's like most things as well, Tom, and I guess audience will sort of agree that we keep coming back to this. The federal government needs to do something, whether it's in this case, whether it's in this EV strategy space, whether it's sort of regulated subsidies across the country, we're too much. We operate like 8 odd countries in one country, and
Yeah.
particularly for clean energy policy and for EVs, right? We need to move on from that. And the other part I don't fully understand is if there's federal labor and there's pretty much labor in every other state on the mainland, then why is there so much hindrance in doing something? We can't keep talking. We have to do something about it, and hopefully there's more harmonization in the future.
Yeah, look, I actually thought we were more cohesive prior to 2019 or 2020. And then the pandemic hit, and I realized actually we're quite fragmented as a country, right? I didn't realize that states could actually shut borders so quickly as we found out in 2020 and 2021. So that to me was quite a good stress test to realize actually we're actually very similar to the United States, where each state is actually independent in some ways with regards to policies like that. So, for me, it's not surprising now Victoria's doing its own thing with EVs, so is New South Wales. I don't know, Riz, I'd love to see a federal body encompass everything like this, but yeah, I'm starting to doubt what the federal government can actually do when it comes to things like that. So anyway, the cynic in me is like this, but hopefully I'm wrong.
I think it's just just to finish this particular topic, that in the US at the moment, charging infrastructure, there is state funded stuff, but now what's happening as part of the Inflation Reduction Act and funding available more broadly at a federal level that will be divvied out to states,
Hmm.
it's all the states are moving. They're competing against each other to get that
Yeah,
funding and to make it happen. So who can make EVs more attractive in their states will get part of that funding, and who has the need for charging infrastructure. I think that's what we need to do. We need to have a federal pool of money to say this is towards our clean energy and EV transition, and then let the
yep,
states sort of figure out who wants that for their citizens or for their residents, and then
yep.
that will create healthy competition. And we need a bit of state of origin in a time where nobody's really doing anything.
Yeah, I like it. I like it, like the way GST is distributed, I guess. So yeah, yeah, bring it on, state of origin. Yes. So, yeah, Marcus says a federation, which is what Australia is, means the federal government only has the power we give it. Yeah, a good point. Now, one more question before we move on to the next article is Jerry Canigan. Great questions, Jerry. What is your view on when the value of used ICE vehicles starts to drop quickly? Does it start when EV ads are mainstream? I think Sandy Munro is predicting 50% EV uptake by 2028, which is 5 years away. Not far off. Yeah, good question. I don't know. What's the sweet spot with the S curve? I think it's normally about 30%, isn't it? When we start to see quick change, that's when we start to reach that steep inflection. So we're 8.8% now, so I think we're not far off.
Yeah, I think things will change and move very quickly now, particularly, I guess, the Jerry's question around used ICE vehicles and the values of them. I think at this stage, we're still sort of like all the brands, the bigger brands, Toyotas of the world, they're not really too worried because they're saying, we're still coming off the back of the pandemic, and the dealers had marked up prices on their cars rapidly. Like RAV4, top of the range, used to be sort of mid 50s, and then it got really steep, and they've sort of held on to those prices where EV makers like Tesla are bringing them down. So it comes a point where, there's enough of the Model 3s and Model Ys out there where you think, well, why would you buy a RAV4 when, you can easily, you won't have to pay anything to run the cars. And with Toyota and the rest of them, they just think that people aren't moving, but people are buying thousands of EVs every month. So used prices for ICE vehicles will drop pretty significantly in the next 2 years or so.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And the RAV4, the waiting time is 2 years now compared to Model 3? Why?
And
Weeks?
exactly, and it may be improving a little bit, but it doesn't help. Like, you can get a Model Y in literally under 2 months, 3 months now.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. We just need charging infrastructure to catch up, as always. Gaffer says, we're afflicted by states, Tom. They have historical value, but right now they get in the way of laws. Economic distribution basically just slows down. It's just an extra layer of bureaucracy. Yep, arguably. And then you've got council level as well. So we've got 3 layers of government in Australia. I know Brisbane's got one big city council. It seems to work. I think it
Yes,
works okay.
And Gold Coast, and I
Yep.
think City of Ipswich. Yep.
Yeah, I know in New South Wales, we tried to amalgamate a lot of the councils, which has worked to some degree. There's some backlash, but yeah, I think you're right to some degree. Gaffer probably do need less government to get things going to some extent. But that is, of course, a discussion for a different style of podcast. We're just touching on the surface there. Riz, let's move on to this article here. Nissan global EV sales pass 1 million mark, half of what Tesla makes in 6 months.
Yeah, it's taken them a while to get there. And I think even in that image, they've got the Nissan Leaf to the right, and then in the middle they've got the Nissan Sakura, which is only in the Japanese market and has been around for 2 years, I think, year and a half, 2 years, and then Nissan Aria to the left. Um, and yeah, most of that legwork has been done by the Leaf over the last, 11 years since its launch in 2012, I believe it was. Funnily enough, looking at that last year, I think they sold 200 and something Leafs, and then this year, or maybe it was 331, but this year alone, they've already got like nearly 300 sales in the first 6 months. So as the EV interest increases, so do people's demand for all sorts of vehicles, and it's not just the Teslas, but even Nissan seems to be doing better locally than they were last year. But it's the only model they offer here. We don't get the Aria, which if we did, it will still be around 80, 90 grand. That's a lot of money for a SUV, and you can see how good value Model Y is then. And then the Sakura is more of a smaller K car, mainly for Japanese sort of city travel, and we probably won't see that ever.
Yeah, a shame. I mean, I would love to see more of those smaller cars around our streets in this parts of Sydney and Melbourne. But Riz, I mean, this is kind of reflective of the Japanese EV market, really. We talk about Toyota a lot, obviously, but Nissan arguably is the leader of Japanese EV. With the Leaf being one of the landmark cars worldwide, and yeah, look at that 1 million mark in 10, 11 years. So the Japanese are a bit lackluster at the moment. Can they turn the corner? That's the question.
Well, in markets that are moving quite quickly, like China, I think Mitsubishi is leaving the market altogether because they don't have product. And most of them, we spoke about it, I think, a couple of weeks ago as well, with the sales figures that apart from the Leaf, there's literally no other Japanese EV on there.
Well,
Or
Honda
maybe the
E, yeah,
Lexus. Yeah, and Hyundai.
Lexus. Oh, Lexus is basically a Toyota, isn't it? Same sort of BZ, whatever. And the efficiency is terrible on the Lexus. I think it's really quite bad for such a big battery pack. It's more of a quote unquote compliance car, which is a shame. No, we do need Toyota to pick up its game. Like it's still the biggest manufacturer of cars, is it? Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the moment. So.
And in Australia, though, like they do so well in terms of using their brand reputation for that, but it will come a point very soon when the market demands products and you don't have them, then they're obviously going to go to a different brand. And in the US, they do a lot of studies on where Tesla buyers come from. And the latest is it's Toyota and Honda were their previous cars.
Yeah.
So,
I know it is difficult time for them. A lot of soul searching, existential crisis, possibly. The world is changing. Either catch up, sink or swim, so to speak. Yeah, let's talk about this little cutie here. Here, Riz, I know you like your K cars.
I think it's a
Talk
Citroen
us through this one.
80.
Yeah, that's it.
They're super cool, tiny inner city car. Obviously, the French have unique design, and there's a upgrade coming that can go as fast as 80 kilometers an hour.
Ooh.
Which how the footprint of this car is like tiny, and it reminds me a little bit of the Fiat 500 or the Mini Cooper from once upon a time, but obviously smaller. Electric cars can do everything, and as small as this Citroen, or as large as the Cybertruck or the Semi. So this is the future. We just need some change in regulation so we can, around inner city areas, we can have some of these running around.
Yeah, look, I can't read French, but I'm quite curious about this word quadricycle.
It's yes.
With a car that small, probably might as well be a four-wheel electric bike, I guess. Could probably seat what, two at most inside?
I think it's one maybe, and they've got
One?
other ones
Oh
as
yeah.
well. It's pretty cool to see that there is a niche like that. Um,
Yeah, it's quite, yeah, probably a one-seater. I wouldn't want someone else in there. It looks pretty small to me. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's probably never going to come to Australia, is it really? Car this size?
yeah, in the UK, I think you can drive them around in certain parts of town, and Europe seems to be more progressive with this stuff. Obviously, denser population as well, and these would probably go okay in markets like Japan as well. But I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, we're probably not going to see them.
Yeah, good comment from Greg here. Problem with Japan is charging. There is not a lot of household solar, lots of apartments, and very little public charging. Interesting. I mean, is that a willingness thing, Greg, or you can't change things like that? Public charging. We see that in Europe with dense housing as well. It does happen. So I think it's just a willingness policy thing. Interesting. Plus you've got the likes of Toyota, which is it nationalized, Riz? Toyota?
I don't know, but obviously it's funny how Japanese do business. Like, I don't know, it's every country's best interest to sort of support their big companies that have a global stance. But the Japanese sort of take it one step further. Like, all the big companies are just these huge conglomerates that governments just do whatever the companies tell them. It's not the other way around. It's not like the governments need to tell what the companies need to do. It's the other way around. So the
Yep.
governments abide by what the companies are saying because they employ so many taxpayers. It's really interesting culturally how it's impacting on innovation and sort of moving with the times, as say.
Mm. Yeah, is it the horse leading the cart or the other way around, right?
Yeah.
You got to sort of look at that picture and say, well, Toyota should be telling a government, yeah, this is where we should be going. They're the ones in the industry. Um, let's talk about this, Riz, real quick. MG4 in Sydney. So yes, I'll just put it up here. So this was sent to me by Amazing EV. So thanks to our friends from Amazing EV spying this in Sydney. Apparently the MG4 is here in Australia for testing. So there's a nice shot of that front three-quarter on the carrier there. Yeah, so we're almost in August, 2 days to go, and I have been promised by MG to test one of these beauties. So Riz and I are actually going to be doing a little drive with one of these cars very soon. So stay tuned on the channel. We'll give you all the best bits of that drive. So Riz, initial thoughts from these pics?
Yeah, good. These sort of look production ready. I mean, if you look at the number plate, well, the holder at the front,
Mm,
so it seems that they've been sent here with potentially New South Wales number plates to go on them. The larger ones that you see. Um, so yeah, same production. Sorry, delivery ready vehicles. One silver, one white, two blue.
mm,
Um, I guess we'll find out what. It's not far from when they're planning on launching the vehicle as well. So
mm.
it'd be exciting to finally get a more affordable vehicle, but it'd be also interesting to see how many are that base model as a proportion, the under $40,000 headline
Yeah,
maker versus the rest of them. They look pretty basic from the wheels, so
mm.
they could all be the base models, but I guess we'll find out.
We'll find out. Speaking of exciting, yeah, they call the Excite, that base model, which is the one I've been promised. So yeah, curious to see how that goes on the open road. And there was a comment too, I think this week about even though the Dolphin is $100 cheaper, MSRP, you've got to look at delivery costs as well. So after delivery costs on roads, the MG may be better. We just don't know at this stage. We don't have final costings. So yeah, and a comment on the tires, I can see from David, the premium contact Continentals, Atto 3's got a bit of flack because I think the Atlas Batman tires from China on the Atto 3s. So we'll see whether the Dolphin comes with those kind of tires or they match to the more well-known brands like Continental from MG. But that'll make a difference too. Yes, thank you, Amazing EV, for sending me pictures. Much appreciated. All right, Riz, anything else we need to chat about this week?
I think that's pretty much it in terms of the EV news, because there's just so much happening, and with this is just between our Thursday night and Saturday morning. There's just so much going on, and it's really good to see our audience sort of come up with some really good pointers and sort of saying it like it is, that there's a lot of change. There's some countries stuck in the past. But at the same time, there is progress as well. So we just keep doing what we're doing and, spread the good word about EVs.
Yeah, that's it, right? We just, as you said, chat about it in real time here on the streams, getting your comments, your thoughts, tell industry where we're at the moment. So, no, it's good. Let's take some more comments here. So Jerry Can again with the great comments today. Is the sales model of Tesla and BYD the new norm? No advertising, just buy after doing your own research, by Ludicrous Feed, of course, and Carloop, and Driven. How can Legacy Auto compete? Yes, how can Legacy Auto compete, Riz? This is it, right?
I think the writing is not on the wall just yet for them, because they're selling their ICE cars and they seem to be selling. In markets where they have stiff competition from good EV makers, like a lot of the Chinese brand in China, we're already seeing them drop out. So we've seen last week, Volkswagen, literally in a desperate call, is done a bit of a partnership with Xpeng, one of the local Chinese makers. Audi is knocking on SAIC's door, and SAIC is the owner of MG. So figuring out how they can make stuff together. Look, 2 years ago, Germans laughed at the Chinese makers.
They did.
Before the pandemic, they didn't want anything to do with them. And then when the Shanghai Auto Show happened and we had Elliot on to talk about that, all the executives from Germany were around BYD's stall trying to understand and see what this little seagull was all about. How can they make an EV for under 20 grand?
And Elliot was telling us how worried they look too on the faces of the executives.
So that's what's happening more globally, and locally here in Australia. Usually with legacy automakers, there is at least 18 months to 24 months of a delay before they hear something as well. And they can't compete when you've got dealers in the middle. You just ultimately consumer ends up paying. And when Tesla can go direct and BYD can go direct, all those savings are being passed on to the consumer. That's why you're getting the car at the price that you're getting it, and how Tesla and potentially BYD in the future will be able to lower prices further to basically say there's no competition. Why buy an ICE vehicle? So they're all coming to Tesla and BYD from somewhere.
Yeah, look, I think dealerships have had their day, right? But they were useful, of course. You have to buy a car from them. They were the knowledge base back in the day, because pre-internet days, there's nothing to base it off. You can't research on your own. But now you can cut out the middle person, literally. You can buy direct from the OEM or the car maker. And as a consumer, it's such a much better experience buying online without having to go into a dealership. That's something I couldn't stand, back in the day. Going in there and the pressure, the oven you feel as soon as you walk through that door, all the eyeballs are on you. They're like, they literally see a turkey. They're like, okay, this guy we're going to buy, make some money off. And the pressure's right there. And you just cannot look at these cars objectively, because they're right on you straight away.
You can't. And I had that experience last week. One of my friends wanted to buy a plug-in hybrid, and I told them EVs, but they do long distances. They weren't ready to make that jump yet. I ended up at a Mitsubishi dealer, and they were basically going to sell her the car at that price, close to $60,000.
Wow.
And they said, "Are you ready to put your $1,000 deposit in?" And I sort of tap her on the shoulder. I said, "Hey, hang on. This is not the way it should be." And they really put you in that pressure, as you say, Tom. The next day, I pick up the phone. I called the dealer. I was like, "We're happy to buy the car, 56 grand." And he said, "We can't do that." And I said, "Well, you talk to your manager and come back."
That's
And he
right.
did. And he said, "Yes, we can do 56 grand, 4 grand within
Yep.
less than 24 hours. Like, you shouldn't have
Yep.
to put people through that. And that's why
No.
a fixed price model is the way to go.
Oh, it's frustrating, isn't it? It's so not transparent at all. Yeah, and now we've got showrooms without that pressure, like Tesla, BYD.
Hmm.
You can walk in there. Yeah, the reps are there just to help you, right? To give you information rather than trying to sell you a car, right? Because even if you buy from the dealer, from the rep, it's the same thing. There's no commission, right? They're just on a salary, which is great. And now we've seen BYD, as we saw a few weeks ago, in like shopping malls, just a pop-up store or one of the shops there. You can just walk in, they can talk to you. It's an experience center. Polestar are doing it too, as we saw in Chadstone in Melbourne. That is the future, Jerry Can. Honestly, that is definitely the future. Much easier to buy a vehicle that way. Fixed pricing, everyone's transparent. When there's a price cut, everyone knows about it. Sure, it drops the value, but at least it's transparent. It's right there. And as as we've got David saying here, dealers will eventually just sell used cars because that's where they'll go. It's sad, but that's the way it's going to be. Greg saying expect lots of Cybertruck news pics over the next few weeks. Yes, I think they're starting to be delivered in Austin, which is good in the US. Maybe we'll see Nash over there attend that delivery. Maybe we'll pick one up. But I've got to get him on the stream when he comes back. And Gaffer says if Tesla starts making an EV that is at their $25,000 price base, they promise the panic with old world ICE manufacturing will explode. Yeah, and probably 25,000 US, I would say at this stage. All right, Riz, I think we might probably have to stop it there. We could talk all day probably about this, but no, I really appreciate everyone talking and chatting to us on the stream here live at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's been really good. And if you're watching us on replay, leave those comments below. We do read them. And if you're listening to us on audio podcast, thanks so much again as well. Riz, as always, thank you so much for joining us on Saturdays.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everyone, for being here. And yeah, all those amazing comments and thoughts. I think we're getting there. So
Yeah.
EVs are the future, and we're all part of something pretty revolutionary.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And look, guys, industry I think is watching. I think governments probably do watch us as well, whether they admit it or not. Surely, and you guys in the chat there, you guys are the thought leaders. You're helping drive the EV revolution in Australia. So keep those chats coming, keep those comments coming, keep fighting the good fight, so to speak. Riz, thanks so much. We'll see you next Thursday, as always.
See you then. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. And as always, happy charging. Take care. Bye now.